Okay, hello everyone. Clarke Towson here. I'm the CEO of INTJ Billing. Today's video, let's talk a little bit about Bitcoin versus gold. So this chart here on screen now is taken from woobull.com, and it highlights the price of Bitcoin and the price of gold over the past 13.2 years. Now the yellow line at the bottom is $1 invested in gold. You can see that $1 invested in gold over 13.2 years is now worth $1.73. So price has been quite flat over that time period. The thick yellow line is $1 invested in Bitcoin. You can clearly see the same dollar invested into Bitcoin is now worth $22,106,400. Now that is an extraordinary return, probably one of the best, if not the best, returns of all time. Especially when you look at other asset classes, when you think about being able to capture that return, and that return was available to the general public, to anyone out there, not just to venture capitalists or insiders or people closely connected to the money supply. That return, it was possible to capture that entire return if you were early enough to Bitcoin. Most of us were nowhere near that early, but it is instructive, very interesting to see. Now, the purple line that is descending is BTC per ounce of gold. You can clearly see that in October 2009, it would have cost 1.33 million Bitcoins. So I'll say that again. That is literally 1.33 million Bitcoins, or 1,330,000 Bitcoins, okay, to purchase 1 ounce of gold. Whereas now it takes just 0.10 of a Bitcoin, or 1/10 of a Bitcoin, to buy the same ounce of gold. You can clearly see that Bitcoin has vastly outperformed gold over this time period. Now, of course, it would be very, very unlikely that you would have purchased Bitcoin in 2009 and held it until today. It would have been very tempting to have sold, right? Especially when you think you only invested $1 and you've captured such an extraordinary return. Hindsight, as they always say, is 2020. But it is very interesting seeing those returns. Now, underneath the chart, you can see different time periods. It's only been over the past 2 years, if you invested in gold, you would have done better than investing in Bitcoin. Now, Peter Schiff, you might be aware, is not a fan of Bitcoin. He's a gold bug who has been very skeptical about Bitcoin since he first heard about it. And Peter Schiff had the opportunity to invest in Bitcoin early on, since at least late 2012. And it amazes me that he didn't take a different stance on it. His company, Euro Pacific Capital, started accepting Bitcoin payments for the gold he sells in 2014. Now, Peter Schiff could have said to himself, okay, I'm rich anyway. What I'll do is I'll take a portion of my capital and invest it in Bitcoin, even though I don't believe in it, and I'll take a public stance on the matter and turn it into a bit of a game with these Bitcoiners out there and with the gold people as well. And I'll be on the record as saying, all right, I don't believe in it, but I've invested in it anyway. And, it's a game. Let's see how each asset performs over time. All right. Now, if he had have done that, he would have made an absolute fortune, as he would have been buying Bitcoin at around $13 a coin. Now, his ego, of course, prevented him from doing exactly that. Right? So you have to keep in mind that Schiff's company, Euro Pacific Precious Metals, sells gold. He's in the business of selling it, right? He makes money from selling gold. And this gets us back to the famous quote. It's difficult to get a man to understand something when his salary depends upon him not understanding it. And that quote is believed to be by Upton Sinclair. Now, I own both gold and Bitcoin. Now, during COVID, I actually purchased more gold instead of purchasing more Bitcoin. Now, I did that as a backstop basically for if the shit hit the proverbial fan for me over here in Thailand, and to diversify. So I wanted an asset that uh, I could keep in a safety deposit box back in Melbourne, Australia. And if everything turned to shit, there's more than enough gold in there that my family can get access to it, and they can send me. They can sell the gold, convert it into cash, and send me the money, and I'll have a nice return airfare back home to Melbourne, Australia, and I could get myself out of any trouble that could crop up here in Thailand. So that's why I did it during COVID, and I think it's important to have a stash of gold and silver for those sorts of times, right? If everything else goes to shit. Mm-hmm. Now, I also maintain an account with Vaultoro on screen now. And now this, I want to be clear, this is not an advertisement for Vaultoro and their services. I'm merely mentioning that I do have an account with them. I'm not affiliated with them in any way. I'm just one of their customers. Now, the bright idea that I had was to try to sell my Bitcoin for gold at the top of the market, which of course nobody can really predict. So I never sold my Bitcoin or used the Vaultoro service. It would have been beautiful though, imagine, right? If I'd sold back in November 2021, the market peaked and kept the money in gold at Vaultoro, then sold the gold today to buy back Bitcoin. Now, I'm not recommending that you do that or try to do that. Of course, I was deluding myself that I can time the market. We have indicators in crypto, the crypto greed and fear index on screen now. You can clearly see market tops and market bottoms based on that. But still, market timing is always very difficult, and for the most part, is futile. Right? I think it's instructive to know and understand the past performance of both Bitcoin and gold and how both behave as assets. Gold is much more stable and has had thousands of years of price discovery, basically, versus Bitcoin being much newer and not even 14 years old. It's instructive to know that a service like Vaultoro exists, and it's possible to quickly sell Bitcoin for gold and vice versa. There might be some of you out there that are great at market timing. Perhaps you've seen Bitcoin on screen now. We know the performance that it increases for around 3 years and then goes through those parabolic uptrends and then crashes. And seeing this, you might want to invest for 3 years and then convert that Bitcoin to gold in year 3, hold the gold, and wait for the market to crash and hit bottom and buy back Bitcoin. Right now, I get it, I understand it. It's very, 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 very difficult to do. And of course, if we could all do that, none of us would need to work, right? It'd be a very different world. Market timing is very, very hard to get right. Very hard to get right. Right? None of us can predict the future. And if we remember that Tom Lee, in his presentation about Bitcoin, he analyzed Bitcoin's performance. And on screen now, Tom Lee's presentation. I'll include a link to his presentation in the description of this video as well. And he analyzed Bitcoin's performance, and Bitcoin's gains come in the 10 best trading days of the year. Now, excluding or missing out on those 10 best days, right? So had you invested in Bitcoin and you sold out, believing the market was at a peak and it was about to go down, if you were out of the market during just 10 of the best trading days, then you'd be down 25% a year on your Bitcoin investment. And that's why hodling or holding Bitcoin and dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin over a long period of time makes the most sense for Bitcoin investors. And this is, of course, the strategy that I follow myself and I've done so since early 2017. I think diversification and dollar cost averaging is really important. I think Peter Schiff really missed out by not embracing Bitcoin early on when he had the opportunity. It's an extremely rare opportunity, him being in the public eye, and a lot of people knowing about him. That's how he came to hear about Bitcoin, right? Because people were constantly messaging him saying, "Hey, what about Bitcoin?" Right? So he had to come up with a public stance on it. I think maintaining an open mind is really important when it comes to investing. So reflect on the graph, reflect on gold as a store of value, Bitcoin as a store of value, and how each asset has performed in relation to the other. And you might be best served owning both, just as I do. Keep in mind that an ounce of gold back in the day would buy a nice men's suit. And today, 1 ounce of gold still buys a nice men's suit. Gold is great for holding and maintaining its value over a long period of time, but Bitcoin has been a much better store of value over a shorter period of time, whilst also giving much greater growth over and above its store of value properties. All right, that's it from me. I hope you've enjoyed this video. All the best, everyone. I'm Clarke Towson, CEO of INTJ Billing.